"You've got about 15 minutes, I said. Garrett Whitfield blinked at me like I'd just told him his Tesla ran on hopes and dreams. "Excuse me?" I slid my security badge across the conference table. It stopped right between his overpriced kombucha and the severance paperwork. 15 minutes until the wheels come off, maybe less. "Ray, I'm not making threats, just stating facts." I stood up, smoothed down my shirt. My hands didn't shake. "Good luck finding my documentation." Then I walked out of that conference room, for the last time. My name's Raymond Sullivan. I'm 52 years old, and I just got fired by a 28-year-old who married the CEO's daughter at some wellness retreat in Costa Rica and thinks legacy infrastructure means anything built before he got his MBA. Let me back up and tell you how we got here. You can tell a company's real priorities by who gets the corner office and who gets the server room. At Titanium Industries, the server room smelled like burnt plastic and 16 years of deferred maintenance. The corner office smelled like expensive cologne and unearned confidence. I'd been keeping the digital backbone of this place alive since 2009. Senior infrastructure architect was my title, but what I actually did was more like being a trauma surgeon for dying networks, the kind of work nobody notices until it stops happening. The trouble started 4 months ago when Garrett wheeled in his standing desk setup to the executive floor. Kid married the CEO's daughter after one weekend doing ayahuasca in the jungle, and within 8 weeks he's chief innovation officer. 8 weeks. I'd spent longer than that fixing our SCADA system after a cyber attack tried to take down our power grid connections in 2021. Garrett was 28, wore those designer athleisure outfits every day, and had AirPods surgically attached to his ears. Pretty sure he showered with them. He had an MBA from Wharton and exactly zero understanding of how industrial control systems actually worked. But he had opinions, lots of them. His first all-hands meeting, he stood up there with his green smoothie and started throwing around buzzwords like technical debt and legacy overhead, and how we needed to disrupt ourselves before someone else does. I sat in the back row, arms crossed, thinking about the 96-hour shift I'd pulled in 2020 when ransomware tried to infiltrate our manufacturing plant controls. I'd stopped those systems from getting disrupted permanently. "We're entering a bold new phase," Garrett announced, clicking through slides that looked like he'd stolen them from someone's TED Talk. "Legacy infrastructure's holding us back. We need fresh approaches, modern thinking, and honestly, fewer people stuck in old paradigms." People shifted uncomfortably. I didn't move. I'd heard versions of this speech before from other young hotshots. Old equals bad. Experience equals expensive. Nobody under 30 thinks they need the guy who remembers fixing millennium bug issues. He looked right at me during that last part. Direct eye contact. Fewer people stuck in old paradigms. I held his gaze and smiled, the kind of smile you give someone when you know something they don't. What Garrett didn't know, couldn't know because he'd never bothered to ask, was that I'd built the automation protocols keeping our entire industrial network running. Every night at 2 a.m., my code verified SCADA connections, monitored power grid interfaces, caught security anomalies before they became breaches. I'd written it all back in 2014 after the third time someone's quick fix almost crashed our manufacturing systems. Those protocols were mine, legally mine. My contract was explicit about intellectual property. Anything I created on my own time using my own methods belonged to me. The company could license them, but only while I was actively employed and providing monthly maintenance updates. No employment, no maintenance, no license. I'd shown that contract to our lawyer when I signed it in 2009. He'd read it carefully, looked up at me and said, "Keep good records, Ray." I kept excellent records. Garrett kept talking about his vision. Cloud-first everything, AI-driven infrastructure, agile transformation, synergy. I stopped listening and started thinking about my son Kevin's tuition payment due next month. He's 21, junior at state, pre-med track. I thought about the health insurance covering his insulin pump and continuous glucose monitor. Type 1 diabetes isn't cheap. We're talking $20,400 a month in supplies and medications. I thought about the pension that would max out in 3 more years when I hit 55 with full early retirement benefits. I'd been at this 16 years. I could make it 3 more, that's what I told myself. 2 weeks after that meeting, I got the calendar invite. Subject line, quick sync. HR, no agenda, no context, just a 4:30 p.m. slot on a Thursday afternoon. I'd watched this happen to other people over the years. The late-day meetings, the carefully neutral HR rep, the manila folder with severance terms. They never did it in the morning. Too risky. Someone might make a scene, ruin everyone's productivity. I showed up at 4:28 p.m., always on time, even for my own execution. Garrett was there, sitting casual on the edge of the conference table with some consultant named Austin who wore $400 sneakers and called himself a transformation strategist. Patricia from HR sat in the corner looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. She pushed a branded folder across the table toward me. "Ray," Garrett started, and I could tell he'd practiced this in the mirror. "You've been an important part of Titanium's journey, really important. But we're restructuring to align with where the industry's heading. More agile, more collaborative, more forward-focused." I didn't blink, just waited. "We're reimagining certain legacy positions," he continued. Translation: "Old man, you're expensive and you make me look stupid when I point out why your ideas won't work. We think this is the right time for you to explore new opportunities that better match your skill set and experience level." Austin nodded like Garrett had just cured cancer. Patricia slid the severance agreement forward. 3-month salary, COBRA health insurance for 18 months if you enroll within 60 days, and outplacement support services. I picked up the paper, scanned the legal terms. I used to audit our vendor contracts before Garrett decided that was bureaucratic waste. "Any questions?" Garrett asked. He was actually smiling, like he'd done me a favor. That's when I said it. "You've got about 15 minutes. I didn't go home. Walked 2 blocks down to O'Brien's Pub, this veterans bar where the owner knew to pour Jameson without asking. Found my usual corner booth where I could still see the Titanium building through the window. 14th floor, all lit up like nothing had changed. Phone went face down on the scarred wood table. No calls yet, no frantic texts, just the low murmur of the TV over the bar and the crack of pool balls in the back room. Tommy O'Brien, the owner, brought over the whiskey. Ex-Army, ran signal communications in Afghanistan before retiring to Colorado and opening this place. He was maybe 59, gray beard, steady hands from years of not panicking when things went sideways in combat zones. He set the glass down, looked at my face, looked at the phone, back at my face. "They finally do it?" "Yep." "How long you give them?" 15 minutes, maybe less." He pulled out the chair across from me, sat down with his own coffee. "You remember when I told you about Kandahar?" I did, but I let him tell it again. Sometimes you need to hear you're not the only one. 2018, Tommy said. 15 years at Raytheon, systems engineer, security clearance, the whole package. New VP comes in, Harvard MBA. Couldn't tell a router from a toaster. Starts talking about optimizing human capital and right-sizing legacy positions. He took a sip of coffee. Fired me on a Thursday. By Monday, their entire communications grid was down. Turns out I was the only one who knew the backup protocols for their Middle East operations. They call you back? Oh yeah. Offered me contractor rates to fix it. I told them my consulting fee was 4 times my old salary. Minimum 6-month contract paid up front. He smiled. They paid it. Took me 2 days to fix what they broke. Then I walked. That's when you bought this place? That's when you bought this place. Best decision I ever made. He gestured around the bar. No MBAs, no performance reviews, just pour good drinks, listen to people's problems, go home when I want. My phone buzzed. Once, twice, started vibrating continuously. Tommy glanced at it. That them? Yep. You going to answer? Nope. He nodded, stood up. You need anything? I'm at the bar. I picked up the Jameson, took a slow sip. The burn felt good, felt real. Here's what nobody tells you about being the person who holds everything together. You become invisible. Not because you're bad at your job, but because you're too good at it. Things just work. Systems hum along and people forget someone's making that happen. They forget until you stop. My protocols weren't complicated, just solid automation built on 16 years of watching industrial systems fail. Every night at 2 a.m., they'd run through the SCADA network, verify power grid connections, monitor cybersecurity firewalls, test backup generators. Every morning at 6 a.m., they'd validate API connections, check equipment status, reconcile control system data. Boring work, critical work, the kind nobody notices until it doesn't happen. I'd tried explaining this to Garrett about 2 months back. showed him the monitoring dashboard, walked him through the system logs, demonstrated how one small failure could cascade into a plant shutdown. He'd listened for maybe 30 seconds before cutting me off. Right, but modern platforms have built-in redundancy, he'd said, scrolling through his phone. This kind of manual oversight's anti-agile. We need to trust the automation. The automation fails, I'd told him. That's why we have oversight. That's old thinking, Ray. We're moving toward autonomous infrastructure. I'd pulled up the logs from last year when our autonomous infrastructure went down for 8 hours during a thunderstorm. Showed him how my backup systems kept the manufacturing line running while everyone else panicked. He'd looked at maybe 3 lines. Exactly, he'd said. Single points of failure. That's what we need to eliminate. I was the single point of failure he wanted to eliminate. My phone lit up again. Patricia from HR, then Dennis from operations, then a number I didn't recognize. Probably someone from corporate. I let them all ring. The thing about industrial systems is they don't explode all at once. They degrade. Small failures cascade into bigger ones. Equipment starts throwing error codes. Backup systems fail to engage. Power fluctuations cause shutdowns. It's like pulling cards from a house of cards. Nothing happens with the first few. Then suddenly the whole thing collapses. You get warnings if you know what to listen for. They weren't listening. Text from Dennis popped up on my screen. Ray, SCADA system throwing alerts. Power grid interface acting weird. You know what's going on? I typed back, check the documentation. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, what documentation? I put the phone back down. See, there was documentation. 340 pages of it. System diagrams, recovery procedures, vendor contacts, emergency protocols. I'd written it myself over the years, updated it quarterly, kept it current, stored it in the shared drive under a folder clearly labeled Critical Infrastructure, R. Sullivan. Garrett had that folder deleted 6 weeks ago during a storage optimization audit. Said it was legacy bloat taking up server space. I'd objected in writing. He'd overruled me in an email that said, "We're moving toward cloud-based knowledge management. Static documents are a crutch." I'd kept my own copy, of course, on my personal laptop, which was currently in my Ford pickup parked outside. The TV over the bar flickered to the local business channel. A breaking news banner scrolled across the bottom. Titanium Industries stock drops 12% in after-hours trading amid reports of technical difficulties. Tommy glanced at the screen, then at me, raised an eyebrow. Didn't say anything. My phone started ringing continuously now. Different numbers cycling through, same panic, different voices. Text from Patricia. Ray, please call me. We need to discuss transition procedures. Text from Garrett. Hey, hope you're doing okay. Quick question. Where are the SCADA backup protocols stored? Then another from Garrett. This is kind of urgent. Please respond when you can. Then, Ray, I know we didn't end things great, but we really need your help here. I finished my whiskey, held up the empty glass toward Tommy. He brought the bottle over, poured 2 fingers. Stock's down 12%, he said quietly. Just getting started, I said. You sabotage anything? Didn't touch a thing, just stopped fixing it. There a difference? I looked at him. Big difference. Sabotage is breaking something that works. This is just letting broken things stay broken. He thought about that, nodded slowly, walked back to the bar. Behind me, the TV anchor was talking. Sources inside the company report widespread system failures affecting multiple manufacturing facilities. I picked up my phone, scrolled through the messages. 23 now. The desperation was ramping up. My son had texted earlier before the meeting. Good luck today, Dad. Love you. He didn't know I'd been fired. Didn't know his insulin coverage just became a problem. Didn't know I'd spent 3 years counting on a pension that just evaporated. But he'd know I didn't beg, didn't crawl back, didn't compromise who I was for people who never valued it. The phone buzzed again. CEO this time, Charles Whitfield himself calling direct. I watched it ring through to voicemail. Tommy called from the bar. Another? I looked at my glass, still half full. Not yet. What happens now, I thought, is they learn what I was actually worth the hard way. By 11 p.m., my phone had 71 unread messages. I'd stopped counting after 50. I drove home around midnight, left the phone in the truck, and slept better than I had in months. No 2 a.m. anxiety about whether the systems were running clean. No 6 a.m. checks to make sure everything came back online. Just solid, uninterrupted sleep. Woke up at 7 a.m. to find my phone had exploded overnight. 156 messages, 42 missed calls, 5 voicemails from numbers I didn't recognize. Made coffee. Strong and black, using the French press Kevin gave me for Christmas. Sat at the kitchen table and finally started reading. The first email had timestamps. That's what made it beautiful. 2:47 a.m. Primary SCADA server lost connection to plant 2. 3:15 a.m. Backup generators failed to engage during power fluctuation. 3:38 a.m. Manufacturing line 3 emergency shutdown. Safety protocols activated. 4:12 a.m. Power. Grid interface throwing critical errors. 4:45 a.m. All remote monitoring systems offline. 5:23 a.m. Security firewalls defaulted to lockdown mode. 6:30 a.m. First shift supervisor called in 6 systems. 7:15 a.m. Plant manager declared operational emergency. By 8 a.m. when the business day started, Titanium Industries was dead in the water. I read through Patricia's emails. Professional panic, the corporate kind where people use lots of words to say we're screwed. Ray, we understand you're no longer with the company, but we're experiencing critical system issues. Any guidance you could provide would be greatly appreciated. Then Dennis, man, I don't know what's happening, but everything's broken. Power systems, manufacturing controls, security networks, all of it. Can you at least point us in the right direction? Then one from someone named Jennifer in IT. Mr. Sullivan, I'm new on the infrastructure team. They're asking me to fix systems I've never seen before. Is there any documentation I can reference? I deleted them all without responding. The news picked it up by 10 a.m. Titanium Industries shares fall 24% as widespread technical outage enters second day. Second day. They still thought this was temporary. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Mr. Sullivan? Professional woman's voice. This is Catherine Morgan from Apex Systems. I hope this isn't a bad time. I've got time. We've been following your career for a while. We're impressed with your work. She paused. We'd like to make you an offer. Consulting contract, 6-month minimum, renewable. Double your previous salary, equity stake, full benefits package, and most importantly, you'd be working with people who actually understand infrastructure. What's the catch? No catch. We need someone who builds things right the first time instead of breaking them and calling it innovation. We're tired of cleaning up after MBAs who think the cloud means magic. I almost laughed. When do you need an answer? Take the weekend. Think it over. But Ray, we've watched you hold that company together for years. We know what you're worth, even if they didn't. We hung up. I stared at my coffee, still hot. 3 days went by. The messages kept coming, getting more desperate. Garrett tried calling from different numbers, left voicemails that went from casual to panicked. Hey man, no hard feelings, right? We just need some quick guidance here. Ray, please. The board's asking questions I can't answer. Ray, I'm sorry. Okay? I made a mistake. Can we talk? I deleted every single one. On day 4, Kevin called. Dad, you okay? You haven't texted back. I'm fine, son. Just dealing with some work stuff. What kind of work stuff? You sound different. I thought about lying, protecting him from it, but Kevin was 21, not 12. He deserved the truth. They let me go on Thursday. Silence. Then, they fired you? After 16 years? New management. They wanted younger, cheaper, more agile. I used air quotes he couldn't see. Dad, that's age discrimination. You could sue. Maybe. Right now I'm just letting things play out. What does that mean? It means the company's having some technical problems without me there. Another pause. Good. I hope they crash and burn. That made me smile. How's school? School's fine. Are you going to be okay? What about insurance? My insulin pump? I've got it covered. Don't worry about that. I got a job offer yesterday. Better pay, better company. Really? That fast? Turns out experience is worth something to people who know what they're looking at. I'm proud of you, Dad. After we hung up, I sat there holding the phone. Proud of me for what? Getting fired? But I knew what he meant. Proud I didn't beg, didn't compromise, didn't crawl back for scraps. Week 2, the lawsuits started. First was a steel manufacturer whose entire operation ran through Titanium's control systems. Their furnaces went down, production stopped, contracts got breached. They filed for $8.3 million in damages. Then 3 more clients, then 7, then a class action from smaller manufacturing partners. By week 3, the Department of Energy opened an investigation into whether Titanium had properly secured critical infrastructure systems. That's when the subpoena arrived at my house. Certified mail, thick envelope, law firm letterhead I recognized. They weren't suing me. They wanted me to testify. Mr. Sullivan, you are hereby requested to provide expert testimony in the matter of multiple parties versus Titanium Industries. Your technical expertise and documentation of prior warnings are material to this case. I read it twice. They wanted everything. Email warnings, meeting notes, incident reports. Every time I'd flagged a risk and been overruled. Every time Garrett had called my concerns legacy thinking. I had all of it. Time-stamped, archived, backed up in 3 locations. The lawyer called that afternoon. Mr. Sullivan, I want to be clear. You're not in any trouble. We need you to explain in simple terms what happened and why. They fired the person holding everything together, then acted surprised when it fell apart. Can you say that in a deposition? I can say it under oath. Perfect. We'll schedule it for next month. In the meantime, if Titanium contacts you, don't engage. Forward everything to us. They've been contacting me for 2 weeks. I haven't responded once. He actually laughed. Perfect. Keep doing exactly that. I hung up and accepted Apex's offer. The next morning, I drove to their office in Denver. Real office, not some startup warehouse with ping-pong tables. The CTO, a guy named Richard Stone, who was maybe 58 with gray hair and actual engineering credentials, sat down with me personally. Show me what you're thinking for our infrastructure redesign. I pulled up the notes I'd made over the weekend. Redundancy layers, security protocols, automated monitoring with human oversight, the stuff that actually works when you're not trying to be trendy. Richard listened, took actual notes, asked intelligent questions. This is solid, Ray. When can you start implementation? Give me 3 weeks to map all the dependencies. Take 4 if you need it. I'd rather have it done right than done fast. I sat back in the chair. Real ergonomic chair, not 15-year-old furniture. Window with natural light instead of fluorescent hell. You okay? Richard asked. Yeah, just not used to people trusting me to do my job. Get used to it. That's why we hired you. 6 months later, I sat in a deposition room answering questions about my old job. The settlements totaled $19.5 million. The CEO retired early. Garrett quietly left the company, his LinkedIn now describing him as an independent innovation consultant, which is code for unemployed. I never reached out, never gloated, never even checked their website. I was too busy building something that actually worked. Kevin graduated last month, debt-free. His insulin pumps covered under my new insurance plan, better coverage than we ever had at Titanium. He got into medical school at University of Colorado, full ride scholarship, plus he's got a part-time research position that pays his living expenses. Sometimes the best revenge is just living well while other people learn expensive lessons. That's the thing they never tell you about revenge. The loud kind, the public kind, that's just theater. The real kind, the kind that lasts, is when you walk away and build something better. When you prove that what they threw away was valuable, just not to them. 16 years I gave that company. They threw it away in 15 minutes. I got it back in 6 months, plus interest. Kevin called me yesterday from his lab. Dad, you know what I learned in biochemistry class? Sometimes when you remove a critical enzyme from a system, the whole thing just stops working. Is that right? Yeah. The professor said it's basic chemistry. You can't replace experience with enthusiasm. I smiled, looked out my office window at the mountains. Smart professor, smart dad. That's not revenge, that's just math.